Hello everyone. So we are going to start the new part of the first presentation, that is the part 2. So here we are going to deal with the basic introduction to the structure of the the RNA and their function. So let's start. So you see, basically if we check the background of the RNA, we have some information regarding which we earlier also know and some new information that will be added to your knowledge. So first of all, see, it is also known as the RNA, it is also known as the ribonucleic acid, right? Moreover, you see, it is a polymer of ribonucleotides which are linked together by the phosphodiesterase linkage, right? And it was the first genetic material. The RNA, they are regarded as the first genetic material to be considered because they generally involve in the first step of the protein synthesis, right? Now you see, in the year 1967, actually, there was a scientist whose name was actually the Carl Ose. He found that the catalytic property of the RNA, and he speculated that the earliest form of the life which actually relied on this art, the earliest form of the life, they actually relied on the RNA both to carry the genetic information and to catalyze the biochemical reaction. So you can say that prior to the DNA, the RNA, they were found in the primitive forms of life, where the RNA, they are responsible for carrying the genetic information as well as they catalyze the biochemical reaction, right? Now their theories actually were not validated until the work of a Nobel Prize laureate, a Nobel Prize winner. He is none other than Thomas R. Chase. Once the work has been established by Thomas R. Chase, then only the work of the Carl, or the theory of the Carl Ose has been accepted. So in the year 1970, this Sek, means Thomas R. Sek, he studied the splicing of the RNA in a single cell organism, and the name of the organism was Tetrahymena thermophila, right? When he discovered that an unprocessed RNA molecule, I repeat, an unprocessed RNA molecule could splice itself, means the unprocessed RNA molecule or a RNA molecule, it don't depend upon the other any mechanism to get spliced itself, means definitely the RNA could have some sort of the catalytic activity, right? He announced his discovery in the year 1982 and became the first to show that the RNA has a catalytic function. So if somebody asks you who has first announced the catalytic function of the RNA, you can tell the name, that's Thomas R. Sek, right? Now see, these RNA, they are generally single-stranded and they have a helical structure just like the DNA. In the DNA we have a double helical structure, but here we will have a single helical structure, right? Or you can say it will have a helical structure but the strand will be single. The DNA will have a double-stranded structure, the RNA, they will have a helical structure but it will be single-stranded. But the double-stranded also present in some viruses. So just like your DNA, because in some viruses also single-stranded DNA is found, similarly in some viruses, due to the time of evolution, you can find the double-stranded RNA also, right? So the RNA exists in several different single-stranded structure, most of which are directly or indirectly involved in the protein synthesis or its regulation. We know that, right? So it acts as a genetic material in some viruses. As I already told you that there are some viruses which have genetic material as only the RNA. So this RNA can act as a genetic material in those viruses. So it functions as a mRNA adapter, or mRNA, it acts as a messenger. The function of RNA when it acts as an adapter, it is the tRNA, and the structural function, it is contributed by the rRNA, and in some cases as catalytic molecule as a ribozyme. So earlier we have already discussed here the catalytic function here of the RNA. So if the RNA is showing catalytic action, then the ribozyme will come. right? And if the RNA is acting as a messenger molecule, then the mRNA will come. If it is acting as an adapter molecule, then the tRNA will come. And for structural function, the rRNA will come. So the RNA strands, they are typically several hundred to thousand nucleotides in length. We know that, right? So now let's compare the structure between the RNA and DNA. So here you can see this is the structure of the RNA, and here it is the structure of the DNA. As we have already discussed, that the RNA, they have a single stranded. So here we are going to have only a single stranded structure, but it is a helical structure. Here we have double stranded structure, right? So now let's see the structure. So this is the basic structure of the RNA. So see that the RNA, they also contain the three main components. The structure of the RNA contains the three main components. What are the components? They are simply the same component. It will have a phosphate group, it will have a ribose sugar, and a nitrogenous base, right? So the nitrogenous bases, they are again divided into two types, the purine and the pyrimidine. So for purine, here we are having the adenine and the guanine, and for pyrimidine, here we are having the cytosine and the uracil. Instead of the thymine, we are having the uracil, right? So let's see how it gets actually accustomed, or how the structure is built up. So this is the structure. This is the structure of the ribose sugar. Here the phosphate group, it is bound here, and from this position, from this C1 position, the nitrogenous base, it is bound to this sugar. So this nitrogenous base may be either your adenine, guanine, cytosine, or uracil, right? So the nucleotides, they are formed by the condensation of the sugar, phosphate, and the one of the four bases, right? Any one of the four bases. So they are linked together by the covalent bond, which is known as the phosphodiester bond. So regarding the covalent bond, we have discussed in the part 1, that is the covalent bond, it forms due to the sharing of the paired electrons between the atoms in a molecules, right? Now let's look at where the phosphodiester bond it remains. So here you can see it's the phosphodiester bond which bound the two nucleotides together, right? So this is the backbone structure. Now you see, usually the RNA, it is single stranded, right? But in some viruses, as I already told you, you might have, or you might know that they have dsRNA. It is a double stranded RNA, right? So now the thing is that the bases in the two strands are paired to the hydrogen bonding, just similar to that of your DNA. The adenine, they will form two hydrogen bond with the uracil. Instead of earlier, adenine forms the two hydrogen bond with the thymine in the DNA, but here adenine will form two hydrogen bond with the uracil, and vice versa. And similarly, the guanine, they will form the three hydrogen bond with the cytosine, right? So there are double stranded RNA structure also in the virus. How do this double stranded structure they form? First of all, see, the RNA, as it is single stranded, it can sometimes fold back on itself. It will fold back. If you take a long piece of wire, if you fold it right in a duplex form, then you will get a double stranded wire, right? So similarly, the RNA can fold back on itself. That is the first one. Moreover, it depends upon the base sequence. If the bases are complementary, then definitely they are going to get turned into the double stranded structure. Moreover, they gives the stem, that is a double stranded or loop like structure, that is a single stranded structure. So the double stranded RNA, they have a like conformation. A like means they just seem like A, right? So the steric classes steric hindrance actually it occurs between the 2' hydroxyl group. It prevents the B-like conformation of the RNA. I repeat this sentence once again. The steric hindrance that occurs at the 2' position of the hydroxyl group, actually it prevents the formation of B-like conformation of the RNA, right? So now types of RNA. So basically, see, in the prokaryotes and eukaryotes, you will get these basic types of the RNA. That first one, it is the messenger RNA or mRNA. Next one is the transfer RNA or tRNA. Then you are having the ribosomal RNA. It is the rRNA. But apart from that also, you are having some other form of the RNA like small nuclear RNA, which is also known as the snRNA, or microRNA, also known as the miRNA, or small interfering RNAs, which are also known as the siRNA. Even you are going to have heterogeneous nuclear RNA. This is hnRNA. It is actually the hnRNA. It is a precursor of mRNA, right? So let's start with the structure of the mRNA. So this is the cell you see here. The DNA, it will unwind, it will give the message to the mRNA, it will be carried, and finally protein synthesis takes place, right? So all member of the class function as messenger carrying in the information in a gene to protein synthesizing machinery, right? So all the mRNA, they are responsible for synthesizing the protein, right? Now the structure. So you see the mRNA, the structure of the mRNA, what are the prime factor that has to be considered. First of all, you see the 5' terminal end of the mRNA. It is capped. There is a capping. It is capped by a 7-methyl guanosine triphosphate cap. First thing, right? Moreover, the cap, it is involved in the recognition of the mRNA by the translating machinery. So this 7-methyl guanosine triphosphate, it is the recognition site for the translation machinery in the mRNA, right? Moreover, it stabilizes this capping of the 7-methyl guanosine. It stabilizes the mRNA by protecting it from the 5-hexanuclease enzyme, right? The 3' end of most of the mRNA, they have polymer of adenylate residue with a size of 220 to 250, right? The tail, it prevents the attack by the tail of the mRNA, prevents the attack by the 3' hexanuclease. So on both the 5' and the 3' end, there are non-coding sequences which are not translated. These are not non-translated sequence. These are also known as the NCS. So let's see how it looks like. The intervening region between the two non-coding sequences present between the 5' and the 3' and the end of the mRNA, it is known as the coding region. So let's see how it looks like. So here you can see it is the structure of the mRNA. So this is the coding region. This is the start here. It will start encoding here and it will stop here. These are the UTR, right? These are the UTR. UTR means the untranslated region, right? So after here in the 3' end, you are going to have a poly A tail, and here in the 5' end, you are going to have the cap. So the start codon, it is the AUG. We all know that the stop codon, it is the UAG for a mRNA, right? So this is the structure of a mRNA, right? And this is are the sequences. Clear? Now heterogeneous nuclear RNA, hnRNA. hnRNA, it is considered as a precursor of the mRNA, right? So in mammalian nuclei, the hnRNA, it is the immediate product of the gene transcription. You should know that. In the mammalian nuclei, hnRNA, it is the immediate product, the first product of the gene transcription. Once the gene transcription started, the first product you will get, it is the hnRNA, right? The nuclear product, it is heterogeneous in size. That's why it is known as the heterogeneous nuclear RNA. That is a variable size and it is very large. The hnRNA, it is the size of the hnRNA, it is very large. And 75% of the hnRNA, it is degraded in the nucleus. But 25% of the hnRNA is processed to mature mRNA. Thus, you can say the first step, it is the formation of the hnRNA. Once from the DNA hnRNA has formed, 75% of the hnRNA, it get degraded in the nucleus itself, but remaining 25%, it will be processed to get matured into mRNA, right? So the mature mRNA now is formed from the primary transcript by capping, tailing, splicing and base modification. So how mature RNA from the mRNA from the hnRNA? Simply it will follow the hnRNA follow the first process. It is the capping, then the tailing, then splicing and finally the base modification. Ultimately it leads to the formation of the mRNA, right? The next RNA, it is the transfer RNA. So transfer RNA, you should know that they are the smallest of the three major species of the RNA molecule. Means transfer RNA, this is the smallest RNA in size, right? Moreover, they have around 74 to 95 nucleotide residue only. right? So they transfer the amino acid from the cytoplasm to the protein synthesizing machinery. Hence, their name is tRNA, right? The tRNA main work is to transfer the amino acid from the amino acid sequence from the cytoplasm to the protein synthesizing machinery, right? Now, tRNA, they are also known as adapter molecules. Why? Because they act as adapter for the translation of the sequence of the nucleotide of the mRNA into the specific amino acid. I repeat this line once again. The tRNA, they are known as the adapter RNA as because they are responsible for translation of the sequence of the nucleotide of the mRNA into specific amino acid, right? So there are at least 20 species of the tRNA, one corresponding to each of the 20 amino acids required for the protein synthesis. So the number of tRNA is more in the body, so there you will find at least 20 different species of the tRNA available in the cell, right? So the tRNA, it is the only RNA species that contains the nucleoside thymine. As we have already discussed that the RNA, they are devoid of the thymidine or thymine. Instead of the thymine, you are going to have the uracil, but the tRNA may have the thymidine in their sequences, right? The structure of the tRNA, so this is the basic structure of the tRNA. See, it is the primary structure. In the primary structure of the tRNA, the nucleotide sequence of all the tRNA molecules, they allows extensive intra-strand complementary that generates a secondary structure. Intra-strand complementary. I will show you the structure here itself, right? How it forms. The secondary structure, actually, each single tRNA, they show extensive internal base pairing and acquires a clover leaf structure. The clover leaf structure, it is shown by only the tRNA, and this clover leaf structure of the tRNA occurs due to the extensive internal base pairing, right? And this structure is stabilized by the hydrogen bond between the bases, and it is a consistent feature. So let's see how this takes place. So this is the secondary clove structure. So how it forms? So this structure, actually, it have 5 major arms. One, it is the acceptor arm. Another one, it is the anticodon arm. Third arm, it is the DHU arm, which is also known as the dihydrouracil thymidine pseudouridine cytosine. Then you have the T-Cy arm and the extra arm. So let's see. This is the structure. Here you see the first structure, it is the CAA tail. This is the CAA tail. So here it is the first structure. The CAA tail, it is shown in the yellow color. So this is the CCA. This is the first structure. This is shown in the yellow color. This arm, or you can say this arm, it is the acceptor arm. So acceptor arm, it is shown in the purple color. You see here, it is the complementary base pairing, regarding which we have already discussed, right? Next one, it is the variable loop. It is shown in the orange color. So this is the variable loop of the tRNA. It is shown in the orange color. So this is the variable loop. This is the variable loop, right? The D arm, it is shown in the red color. So this is the D arm of the tRNA, right? The anticodon arm, it is shown in the blue color, right? Anticodon arm in the blue with anticodon arm in black. So anticodon arm, you see here, this is the anticodon arm. This is the blue and the black. This is the anticodon arm. And the T arm, it is shown in the green color. So this is the T arm. So this is the T arm. So this is the T arm, actually T arm, T-C arm, right? So this is the structure of the tRNA. It is very important from examination point of view, right? Now, tertiary structure of the tRNA. Regarding its tertiary structure, simply you should know that the L-shaped tertiary structure is formed by further folding of the clover leaf due to the hydrogen bonding between the T and the D arms. Means if more folding it takes place between the T and the D arms, then you are going to get the tertiary structure. The shape of the tertiary structure, it is L-shaped, right? The base paired double helical stems, they get arranged into 2 double helical columns, continuous and perpendicular to one another, right? So this is the tertiary structure of the tRNA. Done? So now the next part, it is the ribosomal RNA, which is also known as the rRNA. So the ribosomal RNA, it is the RNA component of the ribosome actually, and is essential for protein synthesis in all the living organisms, right? So the function of the ribosomal RNA in the ribosomal particle are not fully understood till date, but they are considered, or they are necessary for ribosomal assembly actually, right? Because this ribosome, they are involved in the packaging of the amino acid to form a protein, right? And they seems to play a key role in the binding of the mRNA to the ribosome and its translation. So ribosomal RNA, apart from this protein synthesis, they also helps in the binding of the mRNA. rRNA, they also helps in the binding of the mRNA to the ribosome, right? So the recent studies, they suggested that the rRNA, that is a ribosomal RNA component, that performs the peptidyl transferase activity, and does it also act as an enzyme, that is a ribozyme, right? This rRNA, they can perform the activity of the peptidyl transferase, right? So it constitutes the predominant material within the ribosome, this RNA, which is approximately 60% rRNA is found in the ribosome, and 40% protein by weight it is found. So the ribosome, it contains 2 major rRNA and 50 or more proteins, right? So the ribosomal RNA form 2 subunits. What are the ribosomal 2 subunits? The larger subunit, that is also known as the LSU, and a smaller subunit, that is also known as the SSU. The LSU rRNA acts as a ribozyme. I repeat, the LSU rRNA. As I already told you that the RNA acts in the 2 forms, LSU and SSU. The larger one, that is the larger subunit, LSU, it acts as a ribozyme, catalyzing the peptide bond formation in the protein, right? So the small RNA molecules, there are few small RNA molecules. Major type of small RNA molecules are, first of all, you are having the smaller, or you can say the small nuclear RNA, which is also known as the snRNA. It involves in the RNA splicing, right? The next one, it is the small nucleolar RNA, which is also known as the snRNA. And this snRNA directs the modification of the ribosomal RNA, right? The next one, it is the microRNA and the short interfering RNA, which regulate the gene expression. So for your interest, I am telling you that the siRNA, they can be used along with the drug in the treatment of cancer, and many papers are there available in the internet. You can go through, where the people, they are trying to deliver both the siRNA along with the anti-cancer drug to get control over the cancer. So this is all from my side. So thank you everyone for your patience hearing. So if you like the video, just press the like icon. You can share this video with your classmates and colleagues, and for further notification from this channel, you can press the bell icon. So thank you once again. Thank you everyone.